Plato was very, very concerned with romantic love. He wrote two extraordinary dialogues, the Symposium and the Phaedrus, about romantic love. And in the Symposium, he has Socrates give a long speech from which we derive our somewhat degraded notion of Platonic love. But it is a notion of sort of sublimating the erotic longing that we direct at the beautiful young things, and taking that erotic longing, our love for beauty, and directing it to more worthy objects than beautiful young things, to love of, mathematics and just laws and truth and beauty and goodness, yeah, right. And then he has that's not the climax of the Symposium. Alcibiades, the deliciously naughty boy of ancient Athens, comes crashing in at the end, and all chaos breaks out. And in the expository chapter before this chapter, which is called XXX Plato, I talk a lot about Alcibiades, dangerous Alcibiades, and the love between Socrates and Alcibiades. Socrates loved Alcibiades. And Alcibiades, all of Athens loved Alcibiades, and he betrayed them time and time again. He betrayed Athens to Sparta, their mortal enemies during the Peloponnesian War. He then betrayed Sparta and all Greeks to the Persians. Then the Athenians took him back again. He was irresistible, Alcibiades, and he just wreaked havoc. And so having him crash in after Socrates has given this inspiring speech about how we have to sublimate our erotic longing sent a message. But in the Phaedrus, Plato reverses himself. Now he has Socrates give one speech and then another speech in favor. The first speech is against the madness of love, and the second speech is this passionate, lyrical speech. It actually lapses into rapturous poetry, beautiful in the English and even more beautiful in the ancient Greek, lapses into this poetry singing the praises of the madness of love. It makes many people think, and I'm one of them, that Plato was in love when he wrote that dialogue. And that's so wonderful, that he changes his philosophical view because he's in love. That's wonderful. Anyway, so in this next chapter, I have Plato giving sex and love advice. And I don't know if any of you know the advice columnist. She lives right here in Cambridge, Margot Howard. She used to write under Dear Prudence, and then she wrote under Dear Margot. She's from a famous family of advice columnists. Her mother was Anne Landers. Her aunt was Dear Abby. And what I did was I made up questions that I knew from the Symposium and the Phaedrus, but from other places as well, from the Republic as well, other places. Plato would have something to say. So I made up these questions, and then I sent them to Margot. And Margot, like her mother, Anne Landers, often has consultants. I'm actually her philosophical consultant. Margot's, whenever she has a philosophical question, she sends it to me. But here, Margot consults Plato. And it was really interesting because Plato actually, based on the Symposium and the Phaedrus and other things, he was often more liberal than Margot. And I'll give you an example. I think I have about 11 questions. I had to stop. I just kept thinking of more and more questions. But here's the first one. Dear Margot, I'm a female graduate student, and though I'm sexually adventurous, I'm no slut. One of my professors has proposed that he be my professor with benefits, if you get my drift. We've both got partners, but our relationships are open, so there's no question of cheating. There's also no possibility that we'd get emotionally involved since our affections are otherwise engaged. Frankly, I see this as a good educational move on my part. The man is one of the best minds in my field, and I'd learn a lot from the extra face time with him. Conversations with him are always stimulating. He's also got powerful connections and promises he'd help me professionally. The job market in my field has tanked, and though I'm at a top-notch department, we grad students need all the help we can get. I trust my professor to keep his word, since all indications are that he's a man of honor, and he's been completely upfront with me. Do you think I should take him up on this offer that we mutually enjoy and use each other? Yours truly, pursuing higher dreams. Dear PhD. And this is really straight now what Margot answered me. Wow, the casting couch has moved to academia. What theatrical people call a good career move, you're calling a good educational move. I can tell you that your crystal ball can't be entirely trusted when it forecasts that neither of you will become emotionally involved. One never knows how these things will play out. But hey, if you fell for each other and ditched your partners, think of the professional possibilities. You do seem clear-eyed, however, about mutually using each other, you and this man of honor. What you are suggesting is commerce, my dear. There is a name for people who trade sex for money or entree. If you are comfortable with that, fine with me. But this being a full-service advice column, I decided to consult one of the world's leading experts in moral philosophy. Plato is probably the most quoted thinker in the world, and now I'm joining the crowd. Here's what the philosopher has to say. I commend PhD for the high value she places on wisdom and knowledge. For wisdom's sake, there is no disgrace in being servant and slave to a lover, no reproach for a person willing to give honorable service and the passion to become wise. It's from the Euthydemus. What PhD must ask herself is whether the arrangement that she is contemplating with such cool and disinterested calculation is truly one that will end in her having acquired the knowledge for which she longs. There would be no passion in this relationship. Those are the terms on which this affair would be conducted. Nothing transformative would occur, with each remaining firmly in possession of itself. Again, those are the terms on which this affair would be conducted. But PhD should consider whether these very terms preclude the possibility of attaining the good she desires. Wisdom is an extraordinary state. It requires experience sufficiently out of the ordinary to break the hold over us of our habitual ways of seeing and being, which are in truth ways of not fully seeing and not fully being. There are those who have been granted genius, artistic, intellectual, spiritual, and the extraordinary makes itself available to them in the sphere of their genius. But for those unvisited by genius's spirit, there is only Eros to break the heavy sleep of ordinary life and lead the way to the extraordinary. Eros wrenches the soul from its lazy reliance on conventions that substitute for sight. Gripped by the intensity of erotic longing, a person begins to know the world and its beauty. She knows the world is beautiful because it contains the one she loves. Neither human judiciousness nor divine madness can provide a human being with any greater good than that. There is risk in approaching Eros on these terms, but that is because any transformative experience carries risk. But so too is there risk in forcing Eros to surrender to our ordinary calculations. It is the risk of never surrendering oneself to Eros. These are the risks that PhD, yearning for knowledge, should consider.